Hello, it looks like we are here. Welcome to the NK News and NK Pro commentary on this April 26th, the day after the Korean People's Revolutionary Army Foundation Day in North Korea. And we're here from NK News and NK Pro to live stream and commentate on this parade that was held last night in Pyongyang. My name is Jacco Zwetsloot, and if you've heard the weekly NK News podcast that gets released every Tuesday, then you'll have heard my voice before. And I'm joined on this special commentary and analysis of the parade by two of my NK News and NK Pro colleagues. Let me introduce them. First, we have Jeongmin Kim, who is the senior correspondent at NK News based in Seoul. She's previously worked for the CSIS Korea chair and in the Seoul bureau of Reuters news agency. You can find her on Twitter at Jeongmin Kim with two N's. Hi, Jeongmin, welcome on the live stream. And we also have Chad O'Carroll, who is the founder of NK News and NK Pro and the CEO and managing director. He can be found on Twitter at ChadOCL. Welcome on the live stream, Chad.
Hey there.
This looks like this is the moment. Now, Chad and Jeongmin, you actually did this live streaming and commentating on a parade way back in October 2020 for the Workers' Party of Korea Foundation Day, together with Joost Olimans and Ankit Panda, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. We did a YouTube live commentary. It was rather last minute in terms of planning. We had actually some requests from our one of our customers to just restream the video, and then as we got closer and closer to the parade, I got a phone call from someone in their office saying, "Hey, could you and your team possibly consider doing a like sports style commentary?" And at first, I just laughed it off, thought that sounds insane. But then we started talking about it internally and thought this will be a great idea. Now, I'm watching the visuals right now. This is quite striking. We're seeing very very polished.
Pyongyang looking very much the modern city, isn't it? With these new constructions and the brightly lit up Ryugyong Hotel.
They
Yeah.
recently
Yes,
finished. They recently finished building apartments for the Pyongyang elite, so they will likely show them as well.
Right, in which the newsreader we're currently hearing in the background, she lives in one of those new apartments, doesn't she?
She does, and she was airing the footage of herself with Kim Jong-un visiting her new apartment.
Right, and as we saw earlier on the visuals there coming on the screen, so this parade is to commemorate the 90th anniversary of the founding of the Korean People's Revolutionary Army. We'll talk a little bit later today in our live stream about the two different dates for the founding of the North Korean Army. This Korean People's Revolutionary Army was founded back in 1932, specifically an anti-Japanese army. And it was part of the, what was it called again? The Northeast anti-Japanese army, which included both Chinese and Korean units. So this is representing that. And 1932, you'll see it there on the bottom of the screen. It's a very important date in North Korean history and hagiography. There's a novel called 1932, part of the cycle of Immortal History series of novels. So it's often that this date, 1932, is evoked in talking about the North Korean military. But I must say that it's interesting. We didn't initially expect that the parade would be about this date, did we? We initially thought that it might be on the 15th of April, the Day of the Sun. Am I right?
Yes, we suspected that because it was going to be the 110th anniversary of founding President Kim Il-sung's birth. North Korea tends to celebrate the 5 and 10 year intervals of these anniversaries in a very, very grandiose way.
Okay, sorry, I'll have to cut you off. We are starting now, the military parade. They are showing the video aerial shot of the street where the weapons related vehicles are lined up.
Yes, the night sky of Pyongyang was very well lit for this particular parade. You can see, even in the background there between the buildings, it's very, very bright. And they really have been, in the last couple of years, very heavily using drones to film camera footage, as we're seeing right now. This wonderful overhead shot of the weapons systems and vehicles laid out clearly to begin the parade. Chad, do you know how long? Go on.
These are in a preparation area. It looks just near Changchon Street, which is commonly referred to as the mini Pyonghattan of Pyongyang, just to the east of Kim Il-sung Square. It looks like they're all basically just lined up, ready to start rolling in to the square as and when necessary.
Right. All parades most parades tend to go through the square, don't they? Okay, so here we have the parade to commemorate that foundation of the Korean People's Revolutionary Army, and we're looking now over Kim Il-sung Square. What's that building in the background there, Jeongmin? Do you know?
They're mentioning, Jacco, I think we have to listen in a little bit. She is mentioning how many units were involved in the military parade.
바라볼수록 신심 넘치고 배심 튼튼해집니다. 지금 이 시각 주체적 혁명 무력의 창건자 건설자이신 위대한 수령 김일성 동지와 위대한 용도자 김정일 동지께서 우리들에게 따뜻한 축복을 보내실 것입니다.
Chad, what time did this parade take place last night?
Our sources in the capital first started observing things in the sky at 9:30 p.m. local time, and it ended, as far as I remember, at 11 p.m. So 2.5 hours, although that first half an hour the South Korean military sources suggest was not actually directly parade. It may have been this kind of pre-preparation segment we're looking at right now.
Sorry, did you say something at 9:30?
Yeah, that's when we had a source that mentioned that there was various objects flying over the skies of Pyongyang from about 9:30 p.m. And these
And it ended at around 11, did you say?
Yeah, fireworks from about
that's only
10:30
an hour and
to
a half
11.
then.
9:30 to 11. 2.5 hours.
No,
No, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, an hour and a half then.
So we're not sure how long this, whether this is an edited package of highlights or whether it's a full 90 minutes. Oh,
Let me check that.
지금 광장 전광판에는 미군의 구슬땀을 흘리며 4월의 광장으로 마음 달려온 우리의 미동 육전병들의 훈련 모습.
Clearly, while the show has started, the parade itself has not actually begun marching. We're showing, first of all, a highlight package of some aerial maneuvers involving skydivers and helicopters. Look at the slow motion walk here.
Yeah, got GoPro cameras on some of their helmets, you can see.
Very reflective or interesting stuff on the uniforms.
Sorry, Jacco. Yeah, it finished. If the fireworks ended around midnight last night, so yeah, 2.5 hours. My bad on that.
Okay, so there's a large audience, both standing and sitting, in and around Kim Il-sung Square, watching on the big LED screens this highlights package of aerial maneuvering. The skydivers decked out in red, white and blue uniforms, which are both the colors of the flag of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea. Oh, look at that. They have glow-in-the-dark highlights.
Now this is interesting. This could have been what we were told. These projectiles were flying over the sky and not making noise. That's what we learned from sources in Pyongyang. Now I wonder if this is what they were seeing. It was just a group of maybe 12 sets of people. Like, in fact, these could look like drones or UAVs from the ground, given the shape. Human UAVs.
Pardon me. And so we imagine we'll probably see them landing in Kim Il-sung Square. Hello, my voice has just gone all wobbly. That's the dangers of a live stream, audio and visual, folks, on the YouTube. If this were a podcast, I would simply ask our producer Gabby to cut it out, but this is live.
Narrator says that this unit is flying over from 4,500 meters above the ground.
That's quite far, isn't it? That's a long distance. Oh, here they are. There you can.
Yeah, this really looks like it could be what was seen at the start of the parade, which some observers thought could have been a UAV, because it wouldn't have made any noise as these men fell.
Oh, and look, they've got some sort of a trailing firework thing behind
flares,
them.
yeah.
Flares. Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting seeing this now. A lot makes sense. We were trying to figure out what this was last night, and it was very difficult.
I got a message here from Joost Olimans, who was in our live stream back in October 2020, that those helicopters we saw earlier were Mi-8 helicopters. Those people who are curious about the previous parade that we did, you can still find it on YouTube. You can search for North Korean Military Parade 2020 live stream and analysis. That'll be up there for posterity, along with the live stream for this one.
Well, this is the
crowd.
first time we've seen a nighttime military parade with parachute landing to kick off with this many people, with lighting and
That's a
so on.
nice upright landing there, a running start, as it were. We see the crowd very excited there in the Kim Il-sung Square, welcoming the parachutists as they fly, as they drop in. And don't they look like robots or something out of a sci-fi movie with those the glow-in-the-dark highlights on their uniforms.
한편 고도 1200m에서 리탈한 육전병이 공화국기를 휘날리며 강화합니다. 열병 광장에 마주오고 있습니다.
Yeah, so as Chad was saying before, we were initially expecting this parade to be held on April 15th, the day of the sun, that is the birthday of Kim Il-sung, or perhaps held the night before and then broadcast on April 15th. So we spent a good day in preparation for being called into the office. Because I should point out to our audience that North Korean TV guides, such as they are, do not usually tell you in advance when a parade will be broadcast. So we've had to keep watching and waiting for possible windows. And so on April the 15th, I remember sitting here in this very studio, wondering when that parade will be broadcast. And in the end, nothing happened, and I went home. And then yesterday on April 25th, we did the same again, wondering when there'd be a parade, and there wasn't. So here we are on the 26th. I feel like we've gone through 3 days of this. Chad, do you feel the same?
Yeah, so the April 15th one, we were expecting it because it's this 110th anniversary. That turned out to be incorrect. They did do a parade that day, but it was a much more modest civil type event. And then, all of Sunday we were up late into the night expecting a midnight kickoff for TV broadcast later on Monday, April 25th. That didn't happen. Then we were picking up indicators throughout Monday that there was in fact preparations going on. And later Monday around 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m., like I said, we started hearing from Pyongyang that things had kicked off. But yeah, it does sap your energy waiting for these things to start.
Yeah, South Korean military leader confirmed what we heard, saying that there was a pre-event ceremony that started at 9 p.m., which is likely something that you're seeing right now, and that the main event, which probably means military parade, started at around 10. So we will first see these ceremonies first, and then we will probably move on to Kim Jong-un's speech, and then procession and military parade.
Okay, it looks like we've got the march leader there giving some sort of a signal. And we just saw a band carrying out their instruments there. Now, Chad, does that suggest that the march was actually supposed to be held on the 15th or the night before the 25th and was rescheduled for some reason, either technical difficulties or weather? Is that what you would imagine?
It's quite possible that it was originally designed for April 15th and then moved. I was surprised it was on April 25th. This is, I believe it's the first time they've used this date for a military parade, certainly under Kim Jong-un. So, yeah, there was cloudy, humid weather on the peninsula yesterday. That could have had an impact on those parachutists, for example, potentially also the formation flying. So it's possible things were slightly delayed for that, or that they planned this all along. You know, it's so hard to know with North Korea. And what's incredible is that, you know, in 2022 we have tens of thousands of people and all of their families aware of preparations for an event that they know is going to take place at a certain date and time, and all of the attendees, and yet for the outside world we are scratching our heads trying to figure it out.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? Yeah, especially with the TV programming guide that Jeongmin was assiduously watching for us all throughout the day, trying to find out when the show might be on. Does it feel a bit comical to you, Jeongmin, sort of constantly looking at the schedule and saying, "Oh, there could be a gap here; it might be there, or if not there, then maybe later on during the day"?
No, that's inherently my job, right? And this happened multiple times before as well. What happened was that we transcribed the TV program a day ahead when they air it in the night, and there are usually sometimes weird gaps that we see in the program schedules where there are around an hour and a half gap between what should be a very short program. So 8 p.m. was actually one of those candidates last night. It seems that they are aiming at airing this footage at around the same time or similar time when they actually held the parade, which was 9 p.m.
Yes, looking back at the schedule that I've got here, it was 8 o'clock news, 8:33 art film, 1.5 hours long. And so it looks like they started the parade at 8 o'clock to cover both the news and the art film. So it looks like we could be here for the full 2 hours. We see there the soldiers spelling out the date, April 25th, which, as I've pointed out a number of times, is the putative founding of the Korean Revolutionary People's Army back in 1932. As someone who grew up in Australia it was Anzac Day, the date that commemorates the failed landing of Australian and New Zealand Army Corps on the beach of Gallipoli in the Dardanelles Straits back in 1915 in World War I, also on April 25th. And so those days in Australia are marked by the Anzac Day parade. It's a very different style parade in that we have older men and women, so veterans of wars, marching. But here we see mostly younger people and people still in the military with much more of a martial feel. So we don't see them right now, but later on we will see light and heavy weaponry, including machine guns, rocket launchers, missiles, transporter erector launchers, etc. So much more of a martial parade than I was used to seeing on April 25th back in Australia while growing up.
And Jacco, just also being...
Oh, there's one of the drones at the top of the screen.
Being tipped off by Just, who has participated in these commentaries before. With the drone footage we're seeing is... he's detected this is recorded on the Mavic Pro 2 drone by DJI Mavic, which is a Shenzhen-based company that produces these aerial drones. And yeah, they've used this before. We saw this drone being used in October 2020 for the big North Korean military parade that took place back then. And yeah, if we want to be specific, this would probably be a likely UN sanctions violation for them to be using this. But I mean, when you see the equipment we're about to see roll through Kim Il-sung Square, that's a really very minor sanctions violation.
Oh, Chad, Jeongmin, do feel free to jump in if you recognize any VIP person in the audience, perhaps from the North Korean Central Committee or the Politburo or something like that. I'm not too familiar with the faces of all the folks at the top level of North Korea's leadership.
Sure. Who we will likely see very soon is Lee Byung-chul, who was demoted a few months ago, and then it seems that he is reinstated. He was shown in Rodong Sinmun photos today next to Kim Jong-un. We will likely see him next to Kim Jong-un in the footages probably as well.
What position was he demoted from? Do you recall?
I'll have to look into details. I have to search for details, but he was one of the top military officials.
Ah, yes, okay. Yes. Now we will see a range of different uniforms throughout this parade. Earlier we saw a very light-coloured olive drab uniform with sort of white.
This is new, Jacco.
The
tossing the weapons like this, the assault rifles. I've not seen them do that at the start of parades.
So that's not something that's been done before. Interesting.
Yeah, I think although the newspaper coverage that we've seen of this parade looks like there'll be a lot of similar equipment, there'll be lots of minor differences. I'm sure little flourishes that the propagandists have added in, the choreographers.
Mm-hmm.
I think, did we just see Cho Young-hae there?
Ongwi.
It says only, which means safeguard.
Safeguard, yes. It's a word we see often in slogans around North Korea, such as safeguarding the general or safeguarding the republic.
Usually, yes,
safeguarding
usually
to death.
Ongwi to death, and also sometimes it's linked to safeguarding the party central.
Okay, here we have sort of modern battle dress uniforms, or BDU.
It's another edited video.
Yep.
And this style that we're seeing is very, it's very modern by North Korean standards. We it's got lots of this fast forward, accelerated, slow motion, DSLR type footage. You've got the pixelated uniforms there as well, which are a recent addition from a few parades ago.
Chad, are you noticing that they have these badges for the 90th anniversary of the founding of the army?
I did see that.
That does suggest that it probably was, or at least the video was produced for an April 25th parade date.
It does, yeah. Those emblems wouldn't have just been made overnight.
Could it be a sign that the birth date of Kim Il-sung is now not quite as important as the anniversary of the founding of the People's Revolutionary Army? I don't know if we can say that, but I'll throw that question out there.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
It's like a laser light show. It's a bit of a rock concert sort of feeling here, isn't it? With the Juche Tower and then the Grand People's Study House.
Well, they did do a light show on April 15th as well in the evening, so I wonder if some of the tech is related.
This is where the marching will start, I think, eh?
Yes, likely.
Which we've heard from commentators before. Now, Chad, you've been in Kim Il-sung Square for one of these marches, haven't you?
Yeah, I've attended two of these, 2017, 2018, and
do you feel the ground shaking when the marching's going on?
Oh, you do, yeah. The ground is shaking. You can hear very shrill shrieking by the men and women as they go past.
The marching started, they say.
And yeah, it's pretty breathtaking to witness it firsthand. I've got some great videos close up of the sort of male, female soldiers as they go by, and it's really quite remarkable, the coordination and the rumble that you feel in the ground.
I wonder what's underneath that square there. Is it
there's a shopping centre.
Oh, is there? Have you ever been down there?
No, I've not. I believe only locals can get access to it, but there is apparently a shopping mall, at least a single floor one, and yeah.
Now, I see some grenade launchers there held by the soldiers marching. And are their faces painted, or is it just that it's dark?
Yeah, hard to see.
Interesting. I should point out that North Korea, like China, is pursuing a zero COVID policy. We do not think that there's been a large number of vaccinations against the COVID vaccine here. Here we have large numbers of people in close proximity, outdoors, granted, but still no masks being worn.
Yeah, the masking is very inconsistent at these big events. We've been doing a lot of reporting on this.
Right, there was an outdoor one where there were some masks in the past, wasn't there? Am I misremembering that?
No, there's been a lot of inconsistency. Sometimes when Kim Jong-un has been around, there's been no masks. Sometimes just the top officials around him are wearing no masks, and others are. Sometimes audience members are wearing. It's very inconsistent. It's hard to know what exactly is going on there.
Yeah. Now, so this is.
Multiple different units are marching at the same time right now.
Right, marching abreast. It's quite an impressive display there. Just coming back to the COVID situation, I should point out that this is in the same week when we have still the ongoing lockdown of 25 million residents of Shanghai, and talk about, or fears of possible partial lockdowns of the city of Beijing. Meanwhile, over in North Korea, which has a similar policy of zero COVID, we see this thousands, tens of thousands perhaps, of people together in tightly packed Kim Il-sung Square. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, well, the North Koreans, like you said, they continue to claim that there's zero COVID within the country, and therefore, I guess they feel they can do these events. Although, like I said, it's very inconsistent with the masking, and hard to really understand where some of their concerns come from if they truly believe it is COVID-free. This looks like special forces.
Yes.
We there were some great viral videos of these guys during an inspection by Kim Jong-un, I think last year.
Kim Jong-un and Kim Yo-jong.
Kim Yo-jong, yeah.
As well.
Yeah, that got a lot of attention, right, Jeongmin?
It also reminds me of very similar videos from South Korean military special forces showing their shirtless and topless training
Right, we
running
even
through
have
cold.
Entertainment programs.
Yeah.
on
Did
both.
you say?
Yes.
Yeah, thinking about that too. We're getting a message here coming in from our friend Joost over in the Netherlands that the rifles we're seeing here all look to be quite new, with suppressors and helical magazines with a large capacity. That's important to mention that about the hardware. A helical magazine is a new term for me.
But this is just really interesting. This is a new presentation format. We've never seen a parade where the different units coming in get their own dedicated short montage of, battle action, preparedness.
Yes, this is new.
Yeah, definitely very movie style.
It
Lots
also
of preparation.
continues the trend where we saw recently when North Korea claimed to have tested Hwasong 17 ICBM. They released a very much edited video of Kim Jong-un inspecting that test, and it was similarly edited like this, very dramatic.
Yes. It's hard to look at this without feeling that some movie-making tips perhaps have been borrowed from Hollywood or Western movies in general.
Yeah, and you remember, Jacco, the Echo of Truth, Unar videos that were popping up on YouTube a few years ago.
Yeah.
By Sogwang, which is a North Korean video media company whose office is adjacent to KCNA, the state news agency. They kind of pioneered a lot of this much more modern propaganda flavor, using some of the production techniques that we're seeing in this. And what's interesting, like Jeongmin said, is that we've seen this slowly creep from being this experimental Sogwang project just on a foreign-facing YouTube to something that we're now seeing directly integrated in military parades.
YouTube and the Chinese version of Twitter. Weibo, is that right? Have I got the name right?
Yeah.
But there were a lot of these videos were ending up on those social media platforms, originally for Chinese viewers and then later on for English language viewers. Oh yeah, they do have the face paint on, those soldiers. I imagine it's likely that we'll see some of these video highlights later on coming out through the official and semi-official North Korean YouTube channels and Twitter and things like that.
It seems that they are now waiting for the military review by top military officials, maybe. Another edited video.
Right.
This is really a new presentation because in the past, usually when the military parade or ceremony starts, they did not used to have other edited videos in the middle of these parade footages.
Right, it's this interspersing of live with pre-recorded that's quite unusual, isn't it?
It seems to be Kim Jong-un's car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
certainly with all those bikes there, I would imagine it would be.
Yeah.
In the V formation. I'm actually a little bit surprised or disappointed not to see that group of formidable 7-foot-tall black-clad bodyguards running in tight formation around the car, as we've seen before.
I believe we've seen this these motorcycles before, but not at night. For example, when presidents such as Moon Jae-in and the Cuban president were visiting North Korea in 2018. I remember the drive-arounds that they did through the city. They were accompanied by police on bikes like this. So that's not unusual. But this, yeah, like Jeongmin said, it's not normal that we see Kim Jong-un's ride from the Central Party headquarters to Kim
Chad, is that Mercedes-Benz?
Yeah, let's have a look. This is one of the stretch ones by the looks of things. So let's have a closer look.
Chae Dong-hae is there. Cho Yong-won is there.
Oh,
Kim
there he
Jong-un
is.
and his wife Lee Seol-ju enters the square. The units are saluting Kim Jong-un. He's wearing this white jacket I don't think I've seen in a while. I think we saw it in a portrait once.
Looking very somber.
They're reporting to Kim Jong-un that they have prepared a military parade.
For what it's worth, I think that's Kim Jong-un's Maybach S600, which is a luxury vehicle he imported a few years ago.
Was that the one brought down to Hanoi for the 2019 summit with Donald Trump?
No, different one. That was one that was actually imported via a very circuitous route via Vladivostok, Busan, Japan. I think that's what it is, just on the small shot I saw.
To note just slightly, it's very rare to see Lee Seol-ju, Kim Jong-un's wife, to be seen in a military parade. We didn't see her last time, I believe.
I'm very surprised to see her here with him, and it'll be interesting to see whether she is actually going in for the handshakes, right? So she's actually a part of this military review, which is very surprising to see in North Korea. We certainly never saw Kim Jong-il go to a review with any of his wives, and I don't think we saw Kim Il-sung going out with his wife. So that's a new stage, a new thing for Kim Jong-un, isn't it?
One comment says, Chad, the car is Mercedes Maybach stretch limousine. What do you think, Chad?
Maybach stretch limousine. I'll have to check the stills on that. I wasn't able to get a good view of it, but yeah, he does have
glare. There was some glare in front of the car.
Yeah, he does have, I think like 5 or 6 Benzes, plus a Rolls Royce, multiple Lexus vehicles. He's got quite a fleet.
So this has been also a usual trope in recent nighttime military parade, although it's not a midnight one right now. The clock strikes something o'clock, and the military parade starts the main event. Kim Jong-un enters. The children wait with the flower, and this is a part of a very long-standing propaganda in North Korea to show that their leader is very kind to children, and they are father-like figures of the country, and so on and so forth.
Tae Yong-ho writes in his memoir that his wife was once one of the young girls chosen to welcome Kim Il-sung and a visiting African dignitary. I think it was the president of Madagascar, with these bouquets of flowers.
I think that is a woman that we recently profiled, someone who keeps popping up as a new logistics assistant next to Kim Jong-un. The one that was holding the bouquet just now.
And if memory serves, we did live reporting on this based on sources in Pyongyang yesterday. I think there was an aircraft flyby around 10 p.m. Just before, we would assume, maybe the soldiers and equipment starts rolling through the city. In which case, we'll see that flying through the sky shortly.
Jeongmin, do you have any thoughts on why it is that these parades generally are not shown live but pre-recorded and then shown the next day?
There would be multiple theories. First of all, they would want to make it as dashing as possible because it requires a lot of resource for them to prepare it. So they would want to make it tick. Another thing would be that there are often sensitive information involved in the military parade footages, so they would want to edit a few things out if they want to.
And sorry, I made a mistake there. My bad. My memory is serving me badly. The jets flew over the sky later on, not at the 10 p.m. kickoff. Those jets, yeah, they seem to fly over about an hour and 20 into the event.
The music that you hear right now is a usual song that you can hear whenever Kim Jong-un is appearing.
Is it 환영곡, the welcome song?
Something like that, but I don't think that's the title.
We heard that so much during the parade in 2017. I remember getting the flight back and it was just like scorched into my brain.
Yes, in 2010 I asked, on my first trip to North Korea, I asked my guide, what are the words to this song? Because I thought that I heard words being sung to it, but he said, no, there are no words, just people chanting Kim Jong-il manse. So that song was used for Kim Jong-il too.
The slogan in the back says, the revolutionary spirit of Mount Baekdu, which is a reference to how they see the ideology started by the late founder of the KCTV.
Right, and Kim Jong-un himself is the third generation of that Baekdu bloodline, isn't he?
Yes, and the reason why Baekdu bloodline is important in North Korea is because it's a hereditary dictatorship in North Korea, and it matters if you are a Baekdu bloodline under how they see the legitimacy of the leadership.
There's the statues of Mansudae Hill of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il.
The narrator, Ri Chun-hee, just said that the world is lighted up because of Kim Jong-un's bright smile, bright as the sun.
That symbol we see there in the background, that's the coat of arms of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Usually when Kim Jong-un is appearing for public appearances, his top aide Cho Yong-won and the organizational secretary is usually right next to him. But because it's a military event, you can see the top military officials closer to Kim Jong-un. Someone is asking, where is Kim Yo-jong, North Korean leader's sister? I didn't spot her yet, but we will let you know if we do see her.
Yeah, look for her perhaps peeking out from behind a column or a piece of the background.
We could play a little "Where is Kim Yo-jong" game. If you find her, please post on Twitter.
A Kim Yo-jong drinking game.
Just worth mentioning that this parade stand that they're watching from was built especially in 2020 for the big parade that they had there, and it used to be a much more humble parade observation stand. And I'm just thinking about it, that might be one of the reasons that we've seen so many parades recently, to get value out of this new parade observation area, which was built presumably from marble and other fine materials by the looks of things. It's had use 4 times since COVID hit, and to put that in context, North Korea leader Kim Jong-un, in the first 5 years of his leadership, there was only 3 military parades, and in 2 years we've had 4 in the last 24 months. So parades have really escalated in terms of frequency.
Look, I think I just saw Kim Yong-chol.
Oh, right. Who is famously accused of being the mastermind behind some of the sinking of the Cheonan, for example, the South Korean corvette sunk in 2010.
Sorry, just now the units while other officials on the podium was clapping, the military units on the Kim Il-sung Square was saying Kim Jong-un 결사 only, which means that safeguard Kim Jong-un to
the death.
Life or death.
우리 혁명 무력의 전투적 행로인가, 우리 조국의 자랑찬 행로인가, 광장에 붉은 주단이 펼쳐지고 있습니다.
There's a red carpet coming out on the Kim Il-sung Square. So it's a literal red carpet.
Oh, from left to right.
Yes, for missiles to roll in probably. Or is that the party logo?
It looks like the flag. No. Ooh.
That's a star.
It's a star.
Is that
The
a red
star
carpet
presumably
or
is
a
made up
flag?
of people. Here we go.
Oh, it's people.
Yes, people as a star, marching together as a star
Yes,
on the
yes.
road. And I can see once again a drone flying over the top of that.
And then you can see the drones above and the shape of the DPRK flag.
Right.
Richuni just explained that the music that's coming up was about the North Korean flag, and these were women dancers who were showing a shape of the red star that represents anti-Japanese guerrilla.
Right. Oh.
지금 국기를 정이 바쳐든 공화국 무력의 명예 위병들이 국기 계양대로 향하고 있습니다. 빛나는 공화국의 역사를 떠올리며 한 걸음, 강렬한 지향과 애국열로 강국의 기상을 떨치며 또 한 걸음.
Seeing different uniforms here of the men holding the flag. I'm guessing that they represent the different branches of the North Korean People's Armed Forces. Climbing up some stairs.
지금 이 시각 여기 경축광장의 관중들만이 아닌 온 나라 인민들, 우리 국가와 모든 것을 함께 해온 공화국의 국민들이 부국 강경의 거대한 꿈을 실은 공화국 깃발에 아름다운 리상과 찬란한 미래를 담아보고 있습니다.
They're talking about how they are envisioning their bright future. I'm hearing that the scheduled program after this would be 10:26 KST PM, which means that it could be as long as 2 hours, it seems.
Right.
Although she's not in this live stream, our state media specialist Sun Yeon-chung is transcribing the entire narration and live stream right now. Thank you,
Goodness.
Sun Yeon, very much for your help.
That is a great job. Here we go. They've just raised the flag with much flair over Kim Il-sung Square. Not a very windy night, as you can see, but there it is. It's going up the flagpole. Now, is he singing? Is he muttering?
He's mouthing the lyrics and
Closing his eyes.
Yeah. Which
Very
song? Did you
patriotic.
say this was a song about a flag,
I
Jeongmin?
think this is about the flag because it's a ceremony about the flag. And important to remind everybody is that when Kim Jong-un is delivering a speech soon, which we may or may not see his actual voice, last time when he was saying thank you to his people for not catching COVID and staying healthy throughout the difficulties, he apparently shed tears. So some colors that we want to look out for this time.
We just saw the camera pan past some MiG-29 airplanes parked on the ground before with their pilots standing in front, saluting proudly.
Those are at Pyongyang's Sunan Airport, judging by recent satellite imagery evidence. And there were another, I think, Sukhoi 25s, various other aircraft that were waiting there for participation in this parade. Just to add, though, what Jeongmin was saying about Kim Jong-un crying about the difficulties his country was facing, it was just a few days after he made that speech that our satellite imagery analyst Colin Jacco detected a new water slide installed on his floating. Sorry, not a new water slide, a new inflatable slide, I think it was, installed at one of his palaces in Wonsan, which gives you an idea of the sometimes confusing priorities of the leadership of North Korea.
That could be a hashtag, couldn't it? Confusing priorities. Is it just me, or is it suddenly much more windy now that the flag is blowing at full,
It seems so.
fully
It
unfurled?
seems so, yes. It seems so. I think this is usually the start of the military review by the top officials. Usually the officials roll into the square on military vehicles.
A live orchestra there. Seeing the red women dancers come back in, the ones who were forming the star earlier. What's that there? Some cannons?
Here, yeah. You often hear this at the start.
조선인민혁명군 창건 90돌을 경축하여 9문의 포가 21발의 리포를 발사하고 있습니다.
최령현, 이설주, 조용원, 김덕훈, the top econ official.
리포의 장엄한 울림에는 성스러운 추억이 있습니다. 반만년 민족사의 꿈을 이룬 승전의 역사, 강군의 역사가 어려웁니다.
Someone's asking on the YouTube chat, where's Kim Jong-nam and the other Kim Il-sung era officials? Kim Jong-nam, he retired a couple years ago, right? I think shortly after the 2018.
But if he were well enough, I would still expect him to
yeah.
be in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, not front and center, but certainly in there.
I mean, he may well be there. It's, obviously a large crowd, but doesn't appear to be. He's a tall man. You would clearly see him.
I believe Kim Jong-nam was seen in the September 2021 parade. I could be wrong, but if my memory is correct.
Could that wind be artificially created by some kind of blower?
It wouldn't surprise me at all with this level of production. You don't see the banners floating from the balloons.
You do not. He's going to give the speech.
Okay, a speech now. I will listen intently and provide parallel translation here and then or after Kim Jong-un finishes his speech. Let's tune in.
We may be waiting for quite a while for him to start.
That's true. I assumed he was going to go straight away, but you always have to wait for like a good showman, you have to wait for the applause and the cheering to die down because you don't want your words to be cut off or drowned out by the cheers. Oh, it looks like.
영영한 우리 조선민주주의인민공화국 무력의 전체 장병들, 열병부대 지휘관 병사들, 경축의 광장에 초대된 전쟁 로병 동지들과 모범적인 군인 공로자 동지들, 존경하는 평양시민 여러분, 친애하는 동지들, 오늘 우리는 위대한 우리 당과 국가, 인민에게 있어서 참으로 의의 깊고 영광스러운 기념일을 경축하는 성대한 열병식을 거행하게 됩니다. 장구한 건군사의 영광이 끝없이 빛나는 이 시각, 우리 모두는 당과 혁명, 조국과 인민을 굳건히 수호하고 평화와 안정을 믿음직하게 담보하고 있는 자기 무장력에 대한 크나큰 자부에 넘쳐 이 자리에 섰습니다. 온 나라 인민들은 승리의 군기들을 앞세우고 여기 김일성 광장의 정렬한 미더운 정예부대들의 모습과 그를 통한 공화국 무력의 현대성의 높이를 보면서 90년 전 조선의 진정한 첫 무장력의 탄생이 우리 혁명사와 민족사에 있어서 그리고 우리 국가와 인민의 장래 발전에 있어서 얼마나 심원하고 위대한 의의를 가지는가를 다시금 새겨보게 될 것입니다. 조선인민혁명군의 창건은 민족해방, 자력독립의 기치 높이 반제 결사항전을 선포한 거적적 장고인 동시에 강력한 혁명 무장력에 의거하는 주체혁명의 새 시대를 열어놓은 역사적 사변이었습니다. 이 사변의 중대한 의미는 역사의 풍운 속에 비참한 운명을 강요당하였던 인민이 자기 민족군대와 중흥의 희망을 가지게 되었다는 데만 있는 것이 아니라 우리 민족의 존엄과 자주권을 건드리는 자들과는 끝까지 무력으로 결산하려는 견결한 반제혁명 사상, 주체적 힘으로 기어이 인민의 자유해방과 혁명의 승리를 이룩하려는 조선혁명가들이 구람없는 의지를 내외에 선언하였다는 데 있습니다. 역사는 우리 인민의 운명과 미래를 개척하기 위해 조선혁명가들이 선택한 이 결단과 의지가 천대권 옳은 것이었음을 명백히 실증해주고 있습니다. 우리 인민의 우수한 아들, 딸들이 백두밀림에서 축혀든 혁명의 무장은 분출하는 조선 민족의 독립정신이었고 희망이었고 위대한 단결의 기치였으며 눈물로 얼룩졌던 조선 사람의 주목에 자존의 기상과 억센 힘을 재워준 원동력이었습니다. 바로 이 무장대오에서 조선 혁명의 원대한 구상이 무르익고 제국주의 폭제를 이길 불효불굴의 정신과 강철의 힘이 벼려졌으며 우리 혁명 발전에서 근본적이고 항구적인 의의를 가지는 위대한 전통이 마련되었습니다. 우리의 혁명 무력이 창건 초기부터 간직하고 계승해온 그 사상과 신념, 전통은 유례없이 치열한 반제 대결전과 준엄한 계급 투쟁의 전초선에서 변천되는 역사적 환경 속에서 자기 본연의 혁명적 계급적 성격과 사명을 명심하고 당과 혁명을 보위하며 영토와 인민을 사수함에 불멸의 영웅성과 희생성을 발휘하게 한 정신력의 바탕으로 백전백승의 담보로 되었습니다. 우리 당과 인민은 만고의 혈전혈투로 조국해방, 민족재생의 대업을 이룩하였고 무비의 영웅 정신으로 미제를 괴수하는 제국주의 연합 세력의 무력 침범을 물리치고 조국의 자주권과 존엄과 안녕을 영예롭게 수호하였으며
Kim Jong-un is
고결한
talking
희생
about
정신으로
how
사회주의
North Korean
혁명과
military
건설의
in
전
history
역사적 기간
has
자기 집권당과
repelled
정권, 자기
the
영토와
military
인민을
invasion of
사수하며
imperialist
백성의 무운을 기록해온 그렇듯
forces
영용하고 강인하며
led
충직한
by the
군대를
United
가지고 있는
States.
것을 무상의 영예로 자랑으로 여기고 있습니다. 이 땅에 귀중한 모든 전치물, 모든 것의 첫자리는 우리 혁명군대의 공헌이 깃들어 있음을 우리는 잊지 말아야 합니다. 우리의 혁명군대는 국가 방위의 주체로서만이 아니라 국가 발전에 힘있는 역량으로서 언제나 당의 구상을 받들고 원대한 리상을 실현하는 거창한 혁명 사업들에 헌신적으로 분투함으로써 사회주의 건설의 새 역사를 창조하고 위대한 우리 국가의 존엄과 영예를 높이 떨치는 데서 그 누구도 대신할 수 없는 큰 공을 세웠습니다. 자기 당과 정권, 인민에 대한 충실성을 제일 생명으로 최고의 영예로 간주하고 조선혁명의 혈통, 조선노동당의 사상과 위협을 결사 보위하였으며 우리 국가의 존립과 발전, 인민의 행복을 믿음직하게 담보한 혁명적 무장력의 90성상의 불멸의 공적으로 하여 한 세기에 이르는 조선혁명의 역사가 승리와 영광으로 빛나는 것입니다. 우리 모두는 간과하였던 혁명의 연대기마다 위대한 무장력이 항상 앞장에서 진군로를 열어왔으며 영광스럽고 보람넘친 공화국의 승리사가 혁명군대의 고결한 피와 땀과 값비싼 희생의 대가로 이루어졌다는 것을 영원히 잊지 않을 것입니다. 이제 이 승리의 열병식장으로 도도히 행진해갈 공화국 무력의 정예부대 장병들과 지금 이 시각도 조국의 하늘과 땅, 바다 초소에서 그리고 사회주의 건설의 대전역들에서 위운을 세우고 있는 우리 군인들 모두가 바로 우리 무력의 영광스러운 역사의 당당하고 긍지 높은 계승자, 세연자들입니다. 나는 뜻깊은 이 자리에서 우리 당과 정부를 대표하여 조국의 자주 독립과 인민의 해방을 위하여 혁명무력의 강화 발전과 사회주의 위협의 승리적 전진을 위하여 고귀한 생명을 바쳐 싸운 항일혁명 선열들과 인민군 열사들에게 숭고한 경의를 표하며 혁명 선열들의 대를 이어 위대한 계승의 여정을 걷고 있는 조선 인민군과 공화국 무력의 전체 장병들에게 열렬한 축하를 드립니다.
That is inheriting the mission towards protecting the country.
Was there anything new or surprising in that speech, Jeongmin, or was it pretty prosaic, pretty formal?
It's coming. I think it's coming up. These are the usual things that Kim Jong-un say, thanking the people, thanking the soldiers first,
Right.
and then almost at the end or in the middle of the speech, he usually moves on to his view on
사랑하는 남편과 아들 딸들을 국가방위
his view on
전초선에
military
내세운
policy
이
or
나라
policy
모든
towards
가정들의
U.S. and South Korea and so on and so
중심으로
forth. This
되는
time, I believe
감사의
that
인사를
there wasn't
올리고자
any
합니다.
direct mention of South Korea, but there were some mentions about Kim Jong-un's views on nuclear doctrine, which will likely come up very soon. He was just thanking families and wives of the soldiers who are at the front line.
조국의 부강과 번영을 무장으로 담보하여 온 혁명무력의 영광 넘친 90성상의 행로는 100년, 1000년으로 계속 이어져야 합니다. 우리는 이제 마주한 시대에서 강군의 영광을 계속 떨치며 지나온 90년사와는 대비할 수 없는 빠른 속도로 더 강하게 변해가야 합니다. 힘과 힘이 치열하게 격돌하는 현 세계에서 국가의 존엄과 국권 그리고 믿을 수 있는 진정한 평화는 그 어떤 적도 압승하는 강력한 자위력에 의하여 담보됩니다.
Kim Jong-un describes the current
자기
global
스스로를 지키기
situation
위한 힘을 키워나가는 데서
as a fierce one where we
만족과
see
그
confrontation
끝이란
between
있을 수
power
없으며
and other
그
powers.
누구와 맞서든
And that
우리 군사적 강세는
a
보다
true
확실한
peace,
것으로 되어야 합니다.
a dignity of a country, and
혁명이 이를
sovereignty
요구하며 후손
will be
만대의
guaranteed
장래가 바로
by
여기에 달려 있습니다.
a strong
우리
national
혁명무력
defense
건설의
power
총 노선은
that can overwhelm any
인민군대를
enemies.
백전백승하는 군대로 만드는 것입니다. 백전백승하는 군대, 이것이 우리 인민군대의 영원한 이름, 혁명적 무장력만이 지닌 고귀한 명예로 빛나야 합니다. 인민군대는 우리 당의 군 건설 방향과 총 노선을 견결히 틀어주고 혁명무력 발전의 새 단계를 힘차게 열어나가야 하겠습니다. 그러자면 정치사상 강군화, 군사기술 강군화를 핵심 목표로 정하고 우리 무력을 조선노동당의 영도에 절대 충성하고 자기 혁명 위협에 무한히 충직한 사상과 신념의 강군으로 더욱 강화하며 그 어떤 전쟁과 위기에도 주저없이 대응할 용기와 능력, 자신감에 넘치는 최종의 강군으로 발전시키는 데 더욱 박차를 가해야 합니다. 정치사상 강군화는 우리 군 건설의 기본이며 전략적인 제1대 과업입니다. 우리
He says that
혁명군대를 당과
North Korean
인민의
military
군대,
should build capability and
계급의 군대로서의
self-conscious
사명을
for
끝까지
responding to
수행할 수
any
있게
type of
하며
war and crisis without any
어떤 형태의
hesitation,
전쟁과 위기에도
emphasizing
능동적으로 대처할 수 있게
that he
준비시키는
will
데서 기본은 군대의 정치
focus on
사상적 준비이며
strengthening the army
무장력의
politically and
주체인 우리
ideologically
대중의
as a
사상적
first strategic
준비입니다.
task of building the country's army.
우리가 이제 앞으로 더욱 배양시켜야 할 군대의 투철한 혁명 정신, 계급 의식은 우리 군대의 전투력, 국가 방위력을 갖추는 데서 결정적인 역할을 하게 될 것입니다. 혁명의 세대가 계속 바뀌고 날로 더욱 포악해지는 제국주의와 장기적으로 맞서야 하는 우리 혁명의 특수성은 백두에서 뿌리내린 위대한 혁명 사상과 정신의 바통을 굳세게 계승해 나가는 것을 군건설 반제 투쟁의 초미의 전략적 과업으로 제기하고 있으며 우리는 이를 군건설의 기본 핵으로 틀어주고 나가야
Kim Jong-un
우리
says that
혁명무력의
North Korea has to
질적인 우세를
continue
확고히
to
유지
face a
강화해
long
나갈 수
period of
있습니다.
time
인민군대 안의 모든 당
and
조직들과
then that wherein
정치기관들은
parallels will
사상
grow
혁명에 계속 불을
ever
걸고
more
군인
ferociously
대중의 혁명 사상
every
배양,
passing day.
정신력 배양에 총력을 집중하여야 합니다. 사상과 신념의 강군 육성을 최우선 순위에 놓고 모든 장병들을 오직 당중앙의 혁명 사상과 의지대로만
So the first theme that's coming up in his main part of the speech right now is about making the military more ideologically stronger and faithful to the party.
준비시켜야 합니다. 또한 인민군대의 전투력을 비상히 상승시키기 위한 군사기술 강군화를 강력히 추진해 나가야 합니다. 세계 군사력의 발전 추세와 현실이 급속하게 변화되는 전쟁 양상은 우리 군대를 군사기술적으로 더 빠르게 현대화할 것을 요구하고 있습니다. 군 현대화의 구호를 높이 들고
Kim Jong-un says that the types of war globally is changing very rapidly, and looking at the trend of development of global military forces, it's demanded that North Korea will more quickly modernize its
전군의
military.
모든 부대 구분대들을 그 어떤 전투 임무도 원만히 수행할 수 있게 준비시켜야 합니다. 국방과학 부분과 군수공업 부분에서 새 세대 첨단 무장 장비들을 계속 개발 실전 대비하여 인민군대의 군사적 위력을 부단히 향상시켜 나가야 합니다. 특히 국력의 상징이자 우리 군사력의 기본을 이루는 핵무력을 질량적으로 강화하여 이미 전쟁 상황에서 각이한 작전의 목적과 임무에 따라 각이한 수단으로 핵 전투 능력을 발휘할 수 있게 만들어야 합니다. 지금 조성된 정세는 과학 무력의 현대성과 군사 기술적 강세를 항구적으로 확고히 담보하기 위한 보다
This, I
적극적인
believe, is the most
조치들을
important
강구할
part of the
것을
speech right now,
제촉하고 있습니다.
talking about
우리는
his views on the
격변하는 정치
nuclear
군사
doctrine.
정세와 앞으로의 온갖 위기에
I will
대비하여
go into more details
우리가
afterwards.
억척같이 걸어온 자위적이며 현대적인 무력 건설의 길로 더 빨리 더 줄기차게 나갈 것이며 특히 우리 국가가 보유한 핵무력을 최대의 급속한 속도로 더욱 강화 발전시키기 위한 조치들을 계속 취해 나갈 것입니다. 우리 핵무력의 기본 사명은 전쟁을 억제함에 있지만 이 땅에서 우리가 결코 바라지 않는 상황이 조성되는 경우에까지 우리의 핵이 전쟁 방지라는 하나의 사명에만 속박되어 있을 수는 없습니다. 어떤 세력이든 우리 국가의 근본 이익을 침탈하려 든다면 우리 핵무력은 이외의 자기 돌직하는 사명을 결단코 결행하지 않을 수 없을 것입니다.
Speech is coming to a
공화국의
close.
핵무력은
I will
언제든지
explain
자기
the nuclear doctrine
책임적인
part
사명과
after the
특유의
speech
억제력을
ends.
가동할 수 있게 철저히 준비되어 있어야 합니다. 동지들, 인민군 장병들, 지금 우리 무력은 그 어떤 싸움에도 자신 있게 준비되어 있습니다. 어떤 세력이든 조선민주주의인민공화국과의 군사적 대결을 기도한다면 그들은 소멸될 것입니다.
If any forces try to violate the fundamental interests of our state, our nuclear forces will have to decisively accomplish its unexpected second mission, says Kim Jong-un. The second mission, he does not go into details, but it's something aside from using nuclear forces for war prevention.
영적 조선인민군을 핵심으로 하는 조선민주주의인민공화국의 전체의 무력은 언제나 자기 위협에 대한 신심을 굳게 하고 자신심에 넘쳐 온갖 도전들을 맞받아 용감히 나가야 하며 인민의 안녕과 존엄, 행복을 지키는 성스러운 자기 사명에 충실하고 무적의 군사적 강세를 틀어주고 우리 사회주의 발전을 튼튼히 담보해야 합니다. 공화국 무력의 전체의 장병들, 당신들의 심장마다의 혁명 선열들의 진한 피와 고귀한 넋이 힘차게 높뛰고 혁명 무력이 조선노동당의 사상과 의지, 우리 국가와 인민의 힘의 체연자로 항상 혁명의 전위에 서 있는 한 우리식 사회주의 위협은 앞으로도 영원히 필승불패할 것입니다.
Speech coming to an end soon. It seems he will do final greetings.
지휘관 군사들, 위대한 우리 인민의 안녕과 행복을 위하여
It seems there was a
위대한
glitch
우리
with Kim
국가의
Jong-un's
무궁한
microphone.
영광과 승리를 위하여 힘차게 싸워 나갑시다.
Let's continue fighting for the glory of the country. And victory.
위대한 우리 혁명적 무장력 만세!
Long live our revolutionary armed forces, great revolutionary armed forces.
위대한 우리 조국 조선민주주의인민공화국 만세!
Long live our great country, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. That's the end of the speech, I believe. I will move on to explaining some bits of the nuclear doctrine that he talked about. This is quite interesting and quite new, partly. He said that the nuclear forces of North Korea is a core of North Korea's military power, and it should be strengthened in both quality and quantity so that it can perform nuclear combat capabilities in any situation of warfare according to the purposes and missions of different operations by various means, he said. He also described the prevailing situation globally as something that demands a more proactive measure by North Korea to take to provide a more sustained guarantee for the modernized character, and military technological supremacy of DPRK's armed forces. And he talks again about the rapidly changing political and military situations across the globe, and says that for possible crises in the future, they will advance faster on the road of building up self-defense and modern armed forces, and talks about how North Korea will take measures to further develop the nuclear forces at the fastest possible speed. Important here is that Kim Jong-un said that although the fundamental or primary mission of nuclear forces of North Korea is to deter a war, nukes can never be confined to a single mission of just war deterrent or prevention, even at a time when there's a situation that North Koreans did not desire. And he said that if any forces try to violate fundamental interests of North Korea, the DPRK nuclear forces will have to decisively accomplish its unexpected quote-unquote second mission. He did not explain what the second mission is, but experts said that this is likely a hint towards a more offensive use of nuclear weapons. Any quick takes from Chad or Jacco on this, I appreciate it. Right now, after the speech, the military actual parade part of the event seems to be starting. There are two vehicles with top military officials saluting the units, and this will continue for a while, saying hi, congratulations about the anniversary.
Well, they have a cavalry mounted unit there too. Thank you, Jeongmin, for that interpreting of an explanation of the speech by Kim Jong-un.
And this vehicle we're seeing right now, I believe it's a Komatsu style 4x4 light armored vehicle. There's two of these, as you can see. I think we first saw this back in 2020. It's designed for various light armored applications. That's the first vehicle we're seeing.
Chad, do you have any quick take on what Jeongmin just explained about Kim Jong-un's not very detailed second mission of nuclear weapons in North Korea, not just to deter a war, but to quickly and decisively end it if one starts, if I understood correctly?
Right. Well, I mean, we were talking about this in the office earlier. It sounds on the surface like another way to bolster deterrence, basically. I mean, this is, by stating this, he's trying to discourage an adversary from attacking, right? Even though we do know that this is coming parallel to North Korean development of tactical nuclear weapons capabilities. We've seen North Korea in recent years really break out of just solely defensive strategic nuclear weapons capabilities to diversify delivery methods. And frankly, right now there are so many delivery methods being developed or deployed that it seems that they would they want to make it feel in South Korea and other areas, potentially Japan, that they would be ready and prepared to use tactical nuclear weapons in the event they were attacked one way or another, which is something we've never seen before. You know, there's
and this
been
comes in the context of more than 20 different projectile flights in the last 6 months since, well, more than 6 months, but starting in September last year, right?
Yeah, North Korea's been testing mostly short-range capabilities, solid fuel short-range missiles, cruise missiles. We've seen the hypersonic missiles tested this year. A lot of these things would, especially the short-range solid fuel missiles, would be extremely useful for delivering potentially small tactical nuclear warheads in the event of conflict very, very rapidly to their targets, and that's getting a lot of people nervous.
Right.
So,
for our
yeah.
audience who's listening to the live stream, a solid fuel rocket is a rocket that doesn't require fueling with a propellant just before launch, so you can have it ready to go and move it around and erect it and launch it quite quickly, whereas a liquid fuel rocket has to be fueled up, and that can be a matter of hours depending on the size of the rocket and its tank at the launch site.
Yeah, exactly. And so January 27th this year, we saw a test of one of these short-range ballistic missiles called the KN-23. It was flown on a pretty unusually depressed trajectory, covering 190 kilometers in literally the order of about 1 minute. That was according to our analyst Ankit Panda at the time. Now, if you can imagine a warhead delivering a missile delivering a warhead with a range of 190 kilometers in just 1 minute, there's very little that a defender can do to stop that doing damage. And so they really seem to be trying to improve their capabilities to really threaten South Korea, especially in the event of conflicts. And you've got to bear in mind, South Korea only has a limited number of airfields, I think around 12 or so, that are used by the Air Force for aircraft like the F-35 and so on. And so if there was a conflict situation that broke out quickly, North Korea could theoretically use these missiles to just rain down on airfields that South Korea would normally use to launch an air attack from, and quickly wipe out targets within the ROK before they can be used to strike North Korea.
Are these the hypersonic glide missiles that you mentioned earlier, Chad?
No. The KN-23 is a short-range ballistic missile, solid fuel, and the test we saw in January was really remarkable for the very punishing trajectory, as our analyst Ankit Panda described. It's just a very fast solid fuel missile. I mean, technically it's hypersonic. Hypersonic missile means a missile that goes faster than the speed of sound. But yeah, it's not the hypersonic glide vehicle that we've seen North Korea using earlier this year.
The review is done. The review finished. Kim Jong-un says, okay. Now it will start. What just happened, sorry to interrupt, but what just happened now is Vice Marshal of the KPA, Ri Yong-gil, also Minister of National Defense of North Korea, reported to KPA Marshal Park Jong-chun, who is a vice chairman of the Central Military Commission of the party, that the parade units were ready to be reviewed. What Park Jong-chun did was he got on the car, reviewed the parade units, and now it's done. And they are waiting to march.
Oh, some dizzying
There's a lot of video production gone into this, you can see. They must have been up all night.
so sorry for the producers of this.
I'm sorry for the
The
horses.
editors, I'm really sorry for them.
And sometimes they do make mistakes with this hasty editing. We sometimes see
Right.
What have you
interesting
seen?
clues about things they're trying to hide or things they may be trying to overlook with the hasty edits.
Just as an example of, not an edit on a military parade, but when a video or some photographs are taken inside a department store, it's usual to edit out or blur out the prices of any of the items there. So that could be something that in a hasty editing job might be left out or forgotten or missed.
Yeah. And a more serious example was in October 2019 when North Korean delegation was flying to Stockholm for talks with the United States. Just a day or two before that, they flew out. The North Koreans tested a Pukguksong 3 solid fuel submarine launched ballistic missile, and Kim Jong-un was described by was not shown by state media as being there, but our analyst Colin Zverko, he managed to detect several indicators within the footage that had been kind of airbrushed out that showed Kim Jong-un was actually there. For example, there was a drinks cup glass used regularly at all these launches on the table, various other small indicators like that made it clear that he had observed the test, but they'd removed him from the presentation for, we assume, propaganda reasons to sort of allow smooth flowing diplomacy with the United States to continue and give the image that Kim Jong-un wasn't part of this controversial missile test on the eve of talks.
Sorry, I'll have to interrupt you quickly. We are hearing Michumi's narration now. She will describe who these marchers are, and when she does, I will have to butt in here and there to provide an interpretation. Right just now, there were some horses. She called them honorary cavalrymen, and now these are column of soldiers representing the period of Fatherland Liberation War.
Right, these are the uniforms that were worn during the anti-Japanese struggle in the north of Manchuria, aren't they?
And we should say that
the one that's appearing right now.
No, the ones that just earlier.
Yeah, just now. These are the ones that represents the period of the Liberation War. The previous one, this one, is the period of the anti-Japanese armed struggle. It says.
Yeah, just on the presence of some of these veterans, again, in some of our earlier coverage in recent days, we detected, our analyst Colin Zverko detected some strange air choreo domestic airline jet movements around the country, and it looked like North Korea was ferrying in large numbers of citizens, presumably veterans from different parts of the country, to observe today's or yesterday's parade, rather. Flights were, we saw in satellite imagery that there'd been flights coming from Samjeon in the north and the Mount Taepdo. They did this before for a veterans conference a year or two ago. And this is the first time we've seen them moving people in specifically to observe a conference. And given the 90th anniversary, the fact it is a military anniversary, that would be a good explanation for why you'd want veterans to come in from around the country to take part in this national day of celebration of an institution they've been part of potentially for several decades.
I mentioned earlier at the very start of this live broadcast that there's another date, which is 8th of February 1948, and that is the date of the founding of the Korean People's Army, part of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So there's a more modern founding in 1948, and then there's this founding of the Korean People's Revolutionary Army during the anti-Japanese anti-colonial struggle, which is the 25th of April 1932. And so this parade commemorates that 90th anniversary.
I mean, we have a product called The Week Ahead, which details all of the anniversaries and predictable news events. And pretty much any week I look at it, there's dates that they could pick out to celebrate something or other. There are so many anniversaries, political, military, diplomatic, within the North Korean calendar, that it's very easy to find a date, I think. And the one you referenced, February 8th, was used just on the eve of the Winter Olympics in February 2018 to host a military parade, which seemed very strange at the time, considering North Korea was in the midst of a charm offensive with South Korea, the United States. Well, it was kicking off at that point. But
you mean the Winter Olympics 4 years ago in Pyeongchang, 2018?
Yes. Yeah, 2018. Yeah, to just a day before that started to be hosting a military parade seemed quite odd when you consider what came out of that Winter Olympics, which was the kickstart of a major diplomatic breakthrough for the DPRK.
He says that the columns of soldiers under the guard office of the party, Guard Department of State Affairs Commission, Guard Department Guard Command, they were all marching, and then it's now followed by 1st Corps of the People's Army, 2nd and 4th Corps, 5th Corps. And we are hearing the manse sound, which means long live the something something.
Did I see these multi-weapon things there? Is that what we're looking at there, Chad?
Sorry, what's that?
There's some kind of rifles there that are sort of combining a combination of a grenade launcher with an assault rifle and a bulky fire control system. Sort of a multi-weapon. The soldiers
Quite possibly. I do wish we had our conventional analysts with us on this call today. Those kind of capabilities are not my area of speciality, so I will just agree with you on what you're saying there.
Okay, well, I do have a note here that if that is the multi-weapon that I'm looking at, that these have been clearly inspired by the South Korean Daewoo K11 model combination of assault rifle and grenade launcher, which does sound like the kind of a weapon that you'd like in a computer game, so you can both do some shooting of bullets and firing of grenades at the same time at will, basically.
That's right. Lots of medals here as well.
I'm not sure how practical they are. Yeah, you always do see, it does almost seem a bit like a caricature. You see, look at this gentleman has more medals than he actually has
like a bulletproof
on the suit.
Jacket of medals. I've got to say, I mean, this has been months of preparation for this, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that 4 military parades in effectively 24 months, that's one every 6 months. That's what we've just seen in North Korea. This is an incredible amount of effort to make, and it's unusual because the frequency is so high compared to Kim Jong-un's earlier years, and you've got to wonder why does he need to have so many military parades right now? They do have declining interest. I mean, I'm looking, to be honest, at our YouTube right now, and less is clearly more with these. Back in 2020, I think we had 10 times as many people watching. By doing these parades so often, it's diminishing the value I think they have, and I'm not sure why.
Jeongmin, what are you seeing now?
Sorry, they are showing the Navy and Air Force columns.
Those are the special helmets with the earpieces that look like they're Air Force. Not these ones that I just saw a moment ago. When were the pixelated camouflage uniforms introduced, Chad? It does make me feel that in recent years, the North Korean military with their battle dress uniforms look more and more similar to what I see in the South Korean military, or at least harder to distinguish.
Yeah, I recall seeing that extensively in the October 2020 military parade, and some of the uniforms, in fact, were determined to be exactly like ones used in South Korea. I don't know why, but...
Oh, Jeongmin, is she saying anything about these soldiers?
These are, it seems, a strategic force column.
like they have night vision goggles.
Special Operation Force
군단
column.
총대가
special operation.
군단장 송석원 중장의 인설하에 나갑니다. 사회주의인의 조국의 푸른 하늘을 그 누구보다 뜨겁게 사랑하며 목숨 바쳐 지켜가고 있는 고사포병 군단 열병 정대.
No, it's the
이번 이
artillery.
시각도 수도 평양의 하늘을 지켜 지새울 전우들의 마음.
Are there women's units in the North Korean military as well, or mixed units?
수도 방위의 핵심 부대 제91 군단 종대입니다.
Pardon, what was that, Jacco?
I was just wondering whether there are any all-women units in the North Korean military, or if there are any mixed co-educational.
Oh yeah, there
that's
are
the
for
wrong
sure.
word.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm certain we'll see some all-women units coming before long. I've seen them when I was observing the parade a few years ago, and yeah, they were screeching every few steps, and my video recording of it is extremely shrill and loud.
And do they have a combat function?
Well, they certainly had weapons. I'm not sure what role they play, but I believe so.
These are
Oh, now what are we
the
seeing here?
columns of corps defending the east and west coastal areas, northern areas.
Are they anti-tank guns of some sort? They look like what I'm seeing on the footage
Yeah,
from Ukraine.
it looks like portable man pads. A new type of man pads.
Can you explain what a manpad is, please, Chad?
Well, yeah, this is something that you can. It's a portable system basically for attacking air defense. You know, it's a portable air defense system.
Wow.
So, for example, if you saw an aircraft coming nearby, a low-flown flying aircraft, you could use one of these man pads systems to try and strike it out of the sky. They may alternatively be anti-tank weapons, portable ones. Hard to say at the moment, based on what I'm hearing from our military analyst, who is not able to join by audio, but.
Look at the size of the magazine on there.
군단장 송영근 중장이 인솔하는 제9군단 종대. 정대처럼 굳건한 신념을 간직하고 마음도 발걸음도 하나로 맞추며 주속단 앞을 지나고 있습니다.
Jeongmin, what are we seeing here?
9 corps. No more explanation on
경례.
what they do.
저국의 동쪽 관문을 지켜선 제10군단 종대를 군단장 고명수 중장이 이끌고
corps.
나갑니다.
Coastal area
높은
defense.
산 험한 영 의진 섬 초속 그 어디를 가보아도 절세 위인들의 성스러운 군용도 자욱이
It really does feel like, I mean, we're just sitting here and watching it from afar, but it feels like it really must be quite a test of stamina, both for the marchers to keep walking in lockstep, but also for the people there in the square to remain enthusiastically waving, standing upright for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, 100%.
The winter uniforms here. Last night was quite I think quite a warm night, over 20 degrees here in Seoul. So I can imagine walking in a winter uniform late in April would be quite a test of endurance too.
This is the 12th corps of Mount Paektu.
Ah, Mount Paektu.
That's right. It's like snow color.
Right. What about these ones?
우리 혁명 무력의 전세대 땅크병들이 지녔던 무비의 배짱과 용맹, 당중앙 사수의 투철한 신념을 전통으로 이어가는.
One thing to keep an eye out for is you may remember from 2013, the July 27th parade, there were these soldiers walking through in nuclear backpacks with radiation logos or nuclear logos on them. We haven't seen them recently, but it'd be interesting to see if they come back
It's a very, very dramatic look. I wasn't sure back at the time in 2013 what to make of them, whether they were supposed to be like sort of single, almost suicide backpacker, dirty bomb type deals or what.
We've seen a lot of. Go on,
Give me a
John.
second, please. It's tank and armored vehicle divisions. Go on.
Yeah, well, since 2013, one of the earliest parades of Kim Jong-un, we've seen a lot of uniform upgrades, and the army has gone from looking like a kind of Cold War era force to something a lot more modern, at least based on the sort of digital print uniforms we're seeing right now. The fact that they've phased out some of the more comical aspects, like the nuclear backpacks, and just in the last parade we saw these bright orange, almost Squid Game style outfits used to demonstrate the anti-COVID.
Right, with the full face mask.
Yeah, we think they won't be making an appearance today based on some of the photos we've seen earlier.
Grenade launchers. It is interesting, as you say, Chad, that while the uniforms have definitely become modernized, at the same time they keep in the old looks of the anti-Japanese and the Fatherland Liberation War uniforms, that they still trot them out for the parade. But I don't imagine that those soldiers will be wearing them on a day-to-day basis.
Right, maybe more of a ceremonial type garment.
Yeah, a bit like the soldiers you see in London in front of the palaces, that wear uniforms that aren't actually used in battle.
Mm-hmm.
당의 용도는 혁명 무력의 영원한 생명. 우리 인민군대는 당중앙 뜰하게 운명의 핏줄기를 굳게 잇고 사는 사상적 순결체.
Now, in each one of those blocks that we see marched by, would that be a specific number of soldiers going by, like 100 or something like that, or does it vary? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
That was a question without notice. Sorry about that. Yeah. Are these special forces, Jeongmin, with the face paint?
이창호 중장이 선두에 섰습니다. 천리를 가도 만리를 가도 철의 고도에서도 언제나 어버이 크품만을 그리며 자랑찬 미운 떨쳐가는 용맹한 사나이들. 원수의 심장을 통째로 드러내오는 전투원들.
So one interesting thing about the fact that this is an exclusively military parade compared to a political event that includes a military parade such as April 15th is my guess and assumption that this will not include any civilian floats at the end or mass dancing. Those, the parades in North Korea usually combine military, civil aspects, sometimes children, young people. Yeah. I believe those made an appearance in 2020 as well at the October event.
I do recall seeing ghillie suits in the 2020 video.
저국보위도 사회주의 건설도 우리가 다 맞자. 존엄한 날에도 평화로운 나날에도 가장 어렵고 힘든 곳에 제일 먼저 불러주는 당의 믿음에 충성과 미훈으로 보답해갈 전투적 열광.
Seeing some face visors here. What are those black things on the shoulders?
Yeah, I'm curious as
Seen
well.
that before? Jeongmin, are we hearing anything from the announcer?
I need to listen.
The far right of the screen there, Chad, I saw something that looked like red uniforms, but I've lost it again now.
This is
Gas masks and maybe
yes,
chemical weapons.
Yes, chemical weapons unit.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe this was not in the readout of the Rodong.
적들의 신경을 마비시키며 승리의 돌파구를 열어 나가는
Did the Rodong Shinmun give a list of the different types of units that marched in the parade?
Just some of them. It's very different from the original readout right now. That's why I do need to listen in, because she is adding descriptions of the units that are marching. Only parts of them were in the Rodong Shinmun readout. Also, the missile that we will see very soon, ICBM was described in the Rodong readout, but we could see clearly that there were Hwasong 8 hypersonic glide vehicles and so on and so forth, but they were not mentioned in the readout. But they did mention something like the strategic missile column, so we'll have to see.
절세비인들의 각별한 사랑과 믿음 속에 나라의 맏아들 군사대학.
I mean, the presence of the chemical weapons unit is interesting. South Korea is not known to have an active chemical weapons program, so who are they intended to, what sort of environment are they intended to fight within? My guess would be it's an offensive one created by North Korea's own use of potential chemical weapons.
혁명무력의 최고급 지휘관 양성의 원정장인 김정일 군정대학 총대가 김영남 상장의 인솔하에 나갑니다. 위대한 수령님들과 경의하는 총비서 동지의 영도 밑에 군사과학교육이 최고 전당으로 강화 발전되어
Now these are universities.
4대 전략 노선을 관철하기 위한
University students.
기치를 들고 나아가는 드높은 경지가 열병대오에 나래칩니다.
Kim Jong-il University of Military and Politics.
해방조선의 첫 기슬개서 우리 수령님 몸소 잡아주신 터전 위에 일떠선 대학 김일성 정치대학 총대의 앞장에
Kim Il-sung University of Politics column right now.
전군 김일성 김종일주의와 위협 실현에서 정치적 역할을 훌륭히 수행하며
This could be like an equivalent of the Reserve Officer Training Corps of university students, perhaps.
담당자들을 키워내는 자랑.
Right, Yichin he explained that these universities are in charge of educating the country's views on military preparedness.
공화국 무력의 최고 사령관 동지를 명예총장으로 높이 모신 김정은 국방종합대학 총대가
Now,
박성철
this is an interesting unit, Kim Jong-un University of National Defense.
Is that a new school? Have we heard of that before?
I believe Colin was writing about this for a while.
Yeah, was that the new facility being built near Kim Il-sung University?
I think I have to double check, but I think it is that one. It has the name of Kim Jong-un University.
김정숙 해군대학 총대를 김정숙 해군 소장이 이끌고 있습니다.
Kim Jong-suk Naval University.
Everyone has a university named after them in the Kim family.
Kim Jong-suk, just for readers, who's that? Or for what observers?
It's the mother of Kim Jong. Hang on, the mother of Kim Jong-il.
Right.
The first wife of Kim Il-sung, who saved his life in a battle when they were fighting against the Japanese in Manchuria. There's a very famous portrait of her sort of stepping in the way and sort of pushing him back and holding a revolver in her hand and saving him from getting shot.
모적 필승의 혁명 강군의 유능한 군사 지휘관들이 자라나는 명성 높은 강건 종합군관학교 총대가 신봉철 소장을 따라 나갑니다.
To the officials next to him.
해방 후 정규군의 첫 열병식에서 제1총대로 섰던 학교, 첫 군기를 수여받은 대호입니다. 김남철 대좌가 이끌고 나가는 오진호 포병 종합군관학교 총대.
Column of Artillery School Unit.
전출 명장의 독창적인 포병 철학, 포병 중시관을 모적의 강철 포신처럼 더팀없이 받들어가는 일당백 포병 지휘관들을 억세게 키워갈 열망 끝없이 불타고 있습니다.
As impressive as it is to look at, I've always found that marching like this quite so high with the stiff leg, you know, the so-called goose step, that's got to be bad on the knees.
Yeah, for sure.
The older I get and the more my knees start to give me grief, the more I think about
Kim Jong-un showing thumbs up.
mundane things. Say again?
Kim Jong-un with the thumbs up there. Some of these smiles and giggles, I would like to know what's going on there.
Right. Usually, when the units that Kim Jong-un particularly likes marches, his reactions are quite different. Sometimes he smiles. He sometimes shows stern faces. Sometimes, look, thumbs up right now.
Yeah, because he was so somber and solemn at the beginning of the parade, and now he really seems to be into it.
I believe this is a woman. That was a woman unit that Kim Jong-un was giving thumbs up for.
What's this unit we're seeing now, Jeongmin?
It's worker peasant red guards.
The worker, because they look very much like what I remember. It reminds me of the sort of Cultural Revolution caps in China.
위대한 용장의 손길 아래 자기 발전의 새로운 전성기를 맞이한 주체적 민간 무력의 가장 찬 모습입니다.
You can see one of those robot drones on the ground. Oh yeah, what's unit is this?
국가보위성.
Now we've been joined by Chris Green of the International Crisis Group. Hello, Chris.
Pleasure to be here. Sorry to arrive so late.
First,
Did you say this is sorry?
Sorry, guys. This is the Ministry of State Security.
That's exactly what I thought it was when I saw the pictures earlier today. The black suits.
Right. And it was only recently re-elevated to the status of ministry, wasn't it, from the Department of State Security?
Yeah, and I don't believe we've seen them in a parade like this before.
Public security forces.
Does that include the traffic police in Pyongyang?
Yeah, these were the famous traffic security women.
Mm-hmm. Red uniform.
There we go. That's the orange hazmat suit that North Korea says that they domestically produce. These are the anti-epidemic units. They're holding.
These ones are wearing blue gas chambers of some sort on their backs, like backpacks, presumably for disinfection purposes. The ones we saw in 2020 did not.
Right, it's new.
Yeah. Oh, now, sorry, the ones we saw at the last parade didn't.
Tracker dog search. Party.
Oh, look at them. German Shepherds.
Yes, last time I tried to figure out where they got those dogs from. I did not.
That is an incredible. I've never seen so many dogs marching together in formation.
They also, interestingly, have almost the same markings on their back.
Yes. Yes, it's almost as if they've been cloned. I don't want to suggest that that's what happened, but that's what it looks like.
And here we go. It looks like the
vehicles
starting.
So, heavy equipment coming in now, Chris.
I arrived right on time.
You arrived right on time.
No, this looks like this looks like a kind of armored personnel carrier with some guns at the top. I'm not sure what model that is.
Okay, these are not tracked but tired vehicles. Are we to understand that all or most of these vehicles have been actually produced in North Korea?
No, very few will have been. They will mostly have been imported during the Soviet era. There are some we know that they've created potentially domestically in the last few years. We'll flag those as they come through, but a lot of this stuff is older tech.
Okay, change of music. Another edited video.
No, this is the MiG-29s.
Oh, hello.
likely flight parade.
Did you see that?
I did. So North Korea has a fleet of about a dozen of these MiG-29 jets that are one of the most advanced Soviet jet fighter aircraft.
Slow motion walking.
But considering they only have 12, if you were to invade North Korea on the day of the parade, at least 7 would be in service to fly over the skies of Pyongyang. So it would be a good day for.
Sorry, they are.
Yeah, this is something we saw in the 2020 military parade as well. A lot of nationalistic sort of visual fervor before the pilots flew. I mean, these jets were, looking at 30 years old. Probably wouldn't last very long with the types of the Air Force that South Korea now has. But great for a parade.
North Korea hasn't yet made a movie like Top Gun there, has it?
No, and it also looks like we've got the Sukhoi 25Ks here as well. Sorry, these. I think actually, these are the Sukhois.
They are showing the mixed editings of the
the two aircraft
command
types.
as well.
So there were two types of aircraft that flew over Pyongyang in formation: the Sukhoi 25s and the MiG-29s. And it looks like we're getting a montage of video.
They will likely now fly in formation.
They're not normally meant to glow at night either. This is just for decorative purposes for a parade.
Right.
Could be a bit
And the
counterproductive,
choppers here.
It would be counterproductive, Chris. You're absolutely right. It does have a nice sci-fi effect to it, though.
MiG-23s.
Used explains that the thing that we just saw, the display on the ground, is called elephant walk.
Right, the
Something
elephant
that South
walk.
Korea recently also did.
Like when you see a bunch of elephants in the circus with trunk to tail, trunk to tail, trunk to tail.
Now those are 5-point
This is new. This is fireworks across the Taedong River to the Juche Tower. We've not seen that before. We were wondering in satellite imagery what this structure was that was being built across the river, and now it's clear.
Hello. Oh,
That's another star.
that's a nice effect.
We did see, we heard from sources that North Korea had done at least 4 or 5 training drills for this over Pyongyang by night, which is quite a high number. So I speculated before this parade that we would see a much more unique aviation aspect to it.
It's possible this has all been pre-filmed, isn't it?
Oh look, those look like are those UAVs in the star shape?
And laurel tree.
No. The star. Those are propeller planes.
Oh, they still have that. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, there was something there that did look like a drone. So North Korea. Oh no, the jets are coming in on a very, very low altitude flight there. With flares attached and doing a pull-up maneuver right over the city. Now this looks like, this is the MiG-29s coming in, 7 jets.
Chad, I've heard it said over the years that the North Koreans don't really have a lot of jet fuel to do enough training throughout the year, but do they have enough to do this kind of display and also the practice for it?
Yeah, I mean, under UN sanctions, jet fuel is banned, but they've found a way to get it in. The thing that it would be hard to tell on the spot, but it looks like these are much lower altitude over flights over Kim Il-sung Square than we've seen before, with the pull-up maneuver at the end. I think these are the Su-25s. But the thing about the UAVs, so in the 8th Party Congress, January 2021, Kim Jong-un said that he wanted to develop a capability of having unmanned aerial vehicles that had a 500-kilometer range that could go effectively all the way down to Jeju. We haven't seen any depicted in the Rodong Shinmun stills today, but it did look like we got a glimpse just earlier of something that looked like UAVs flying in formation above the sky. But as Eustace is telling us over chat, it looks like what we may have seen were prop planes with the cockpit removed, some kind of recreational UAV, and not really one with a military application.
Chris,
certainly adds to the spectacle.
Your thoughts on sort of the big picture of all this? Like, what does this do for the political economy of the North Korean state?
Well, it's interesting. We were talking about the jets that they were using there for those flypasts. These are very old items, and that does point to the fact that this is as much a domestically oriented activity as an internationally oriented one. I mean, we're moving on to new hardware here, so let's talk about this more in a little while. But there's no way that the international community will be concerned by these jets, which are, as you say, a bit about 30 years old. So the domestic audience might see them as very powerful air force, but internationally that would not be the case.
These are non-line of sight anti-tank guided missiles. The 9 vehicles we're seeing now crossing the square with the 8 missile, yellow-coloured missile projectile areas.
Which he called it tactical missile units.
Tactical missile units, okay.
Yeah, so these would be designed to strike tanks, enemy tanks in a conflict. And being non-line of sight, if that's what they are, these would enable you to target something potentially over a hill or in an area that you can't see directly.
So that's what that's meant. Okay, so it could be over the horizon or behind an object.
Yeah. Now, Eustace is explaining this vehicle section. It seems, based on what we've seen in the Rodong Shinmun, that nothing here, except potentially what we're about to see. Let's see. Most of this we've seen before, but there is one vehicle type I'm looking out for that. This looks like what Eustace was describing as a NLOS ATGM carrier, a powerful long-range anti-armor infantry weapon, or loitering munition carrier. I don't believe we've seen this one before, and now we're on to the tanks, which we have seen before. So yeah, one of those tanks we've just seen is one of their most recent battle tanks. Very modern by North Korean standards.
So they've updated their tanks recently, have they?
Yeah, these parades you used to see really vintage tanks being rolled out, and in October 2020 we saw these much more modern tanks rolled out that look like US M1A2 Abrams, Russian T-14 Armata style tanks.
Although, of course,
We
as we're
don't.
watching,
Yeah.
as we're seeing from the war in Ukraine, tanks can be sometimes limited in their use and are not by no means invulnerable.
Right. This, I believe, is the latest self-propelled gun they've developed. Also seen in 2020. And now we are onto the MRLs, multiple rocket launchers. So 300 millimeters. And we'll probably see the 600 milliliters soon. So those 300.
끝없는 로고를 바치시어 포병 전투력 강화에서 일대 혁명을 일으켜 주신 김정은 동지의 위대한 그 업적 저 영롱한 철의 흐름에 양력히 어려.
Jeongmin, what's the commentary on these?
국가 방위를 위한 강력한 전쟁 억제력은 우리의 필수 불가결의 전략적 선택이며 그 모두가
Artillery units.
귀중한 전략 자산입니다.
Yeah, this looks like more 300 millimeter MRLs. And now these are the 600 millimeter MRLs, which are in between effectively an MRL and ballistic missile.
What's the range of those things? If one of them is fired from Pyongyang, how far could it reach? Do we know?
I don't have the range data to hand right now, I'm afraid, Jacco. But you can see they're basically double-sized, the MRLs that so the 300 ones that we were seeing earlier just before this have a range of about 180 to 200 kilometers. The 240 ones that are much older, a range of about 60 to 65 kilometers, and they're the ones that are sort of dotted all along the DMZ that were historically the ones that South Korea was most worried about because they could strike northern Seoul. 300 millimeter ones would have a much further range, payload of about 190 kilos. The 600, yeah, presumably a lot further.
Okay, so that is quite a threat to be aware of.
Long-range cruise missile there, just going past.
Let us know if any of these missiles have names that we've heard of before, like the Bukguk Song or the Hwasong or things like that.
Yeah,
Those will be
interesting.
likely at the end.
Yeah. This is also a long-range cruise missile, which North Korea did do some tests of quite recently. There was a new cruise missile tested in January 2022 with a range of 1,800 kilometers, flight time of about 2 hours 32 to deliver that payload. And here we're seeing the submarine launched ballistic missile that was used most recently for a launch. There's been a lot of new SLBMs, but this is the only one we've actually seen being tested recently. It's KN-23 24 based Iskander inspired SLBM. And this, what we're seeing now, is a new SLBM, we believe, that looks very like the Pukguk Song 5, which was first revealed 1 or 2 military parades ago, but slightly longer. I think, Jeongmin, you had some data on this earlier, how slight variation.
Sorry, I'm trying to listen to.
Gotcha.
Is this actually supposed to fit inside a submarine?
Yeah, North Korea is developing a new, since 2019, a new submarine for ballistic missile launches. But what's very odd is the last 3 or 4 parades, we've seen these very chubby, large submarine ballistic missiles. We've now seen 3 types. None of them have ever been tested, so it's unclear, what the deployment status, the development status is. We'll be curious to find out more about these in due course.
Kim Jong-un did, of course, reiterate the importance of developing the submarine program in his January 2021 8th Congress speech.
Yeah.
He did, yeah. When was it that photograph was released of a giant cutaway section of a submarine and Kim Jong-un was there to inspect it? Is that already
That was July 2019, and we've not really had any updates on that since.
Right, that's almost 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that what I just mentioned, that is apparently a Russian Tor-inspired surface-to-air missile system. The thing that went past with the radar, square radar or rectangular radar out the front.
About the SLBM region, he was saying that it's the world's strongest weapon, referring to it as a ballistic missile, strategic ballistic missile that can be fired from underwater.
That's interesting because that's what the exact term they used when they introduced the Pukguksong 5.
Exactly.
So I do.
But
Yeah,
it's interesting because in Rodong Shinmun they were not mentioning this SLBM and only talking about the Hwasong. But apparently now they're using that term, SLBM, the new SLBM.
It's an acutely important inter-Korean issue too, because the South Koreans, of course, do have a submarine-launched ballistic missile that is proven to be effective and does have a delivery system. So it's an issue for the North Koreans in terms of reaching parity with South Korea.
Just quickly, this is the new tactical missile, most recently tested, claimed as a tactical nuclear launch.
Sorry, this looks like a bunch of boxes on top of the truck.
Yeah. 110 kilometer range, could deliver a small tactical nuclear warhead.
Oh.
And these, what we're looking at now, this looks like the KN-23 missile. Another short-range ballistic missile. I mean, it's just striking how many of these short-range missiles North Korea is now deploying. So many different types.
They're obviously saving
Is this a type that can be fitted on a train? With, of course, it's sort of several train launch, short-range ballistic missile launches from the North Koreans in the past year. Is this one of those?
Yes, it's either the I can't remember off the top of my head. It's either the KN-23 or the 24, which are both quite similar. One of those can be used and has been used for train-based launches, solid fuel.
Gangbyeong.
Make the country prosperous and make the military strong.
Is that a recent slogan or one that's always been around?
No, it's an old one.
These are the KN-25 tracked launchers. So yeah, this KN-25. This is the really reliable solid fuel short range missile.
These are the solid fuel. Okay.
But these are on the tracked launchers. There are also wheeled launchers that we've seen for this as well, I believe.
Richini is saying that peace and security can only be protected by their own hands, hence they have to build the strong power to protect their country. It's talking about North Korea's strategic level in the world, status.
Yes, and it's a consistent messaging, isn't it, that North Korea has to take care of itself and rely on itself and develop itself with its own strengths. That's a very consistent message over the decades.
Right, and it's also a justification. Richun is saying that these are new.
Mm-hmm.
The music's getting dramatic.
You will be able to sense that it's becoming more and more, that the music and everything become more and more dramatic towards the end, because at the end is where they show the biggest ones.
That's right.
Now these are the unnamed maneuverable re-entry vehicle with medium range ballistic missile. We don't know what this is yet. We don't know the name of it, at least on the North Korean designation.
Oh, it's the G11201. Whatever.
That's the unit now. Well, I guess the missile number, but not the type.
Kim Jong-chol again.
Kim Jong-chol there, yeah. Who was in the White House just a few years ago.
When Ri Chun-hee was saying that these are new main equipments, she was saying that these are the ones that can preemptively and thoroughly exterminate any enemies outside North Korea.
Is that because they can leave the atmosphere and then re-enter it?
No, it's probably for. I mean, most missiles would do that. Most ballistic missiles would. I mean, ballistic missiles would do that. These are this is the hypersonic missile that we're seeing now.
I think it's the first time on the military parade.
Yeah, it's the HS-8 glide vehicle.
When they tested it, they only revealed very few photos. So this is the first time we're seeing it more closely.
Right.
They tested it 3 times, and the last one was attended by Kim Jong-un.
You can see the shape of the warhead is different, and that's so that the missile can be maneuverable. The warhead can be maneuverable while it sort of flies towards its target, which makes missile defense a lot harder. And here we see the Hwasong 15 ICBM. This is the intercontinental ballistic missile, first tested in November 2017. Tested only once, in fact, until very recently, when we believe it was tested in lieu of a Hwasong 17, which failed just a week earlier.
Okay, now.
These are being these are the Hwasong 15s. These are being transported on modified Wanchon WS 51200 heavy logging trucks imported from China many years ago, having extra axles added to them. We can see 4 here. There would have been a 5th one. It's probably diverted off the square. They always carry 1 extra just in case there's a failure of one of these to avoid embarrassment. And now we're seeing it being followed by 1, 2, 3. It looks like 4 Hwasong 17 ICBMs. These are the biggest liquid-fueled missiles in the world. First revealed October 2020. And this was the missile that was attempted to be tested in March. Yeah, I think it was March 16th or 17th, if memory serves. But you will remember there was a missile failure that day, and about 20 kilometers above the sky of Pyongyang, there was a catastrophic failure. And so this missile has, as far as we know, not ever been successfully tested. And Kim Jong-un knows that while he's looking smiling at this crossing Kim Il-sung Square.
Kim Jong-sik is leading the ICBM unit right now.
And who is that?
one of the top military officials, munitions.
Question, with all of the hardware that we're seeing here, do we believe that it's likely all real, or would there be any mock-ups in amongst it?
Usually in parades, you would not carry real missiles through the square. There would be mock-ups. Usually, in North Korea, I don't know. There have definitely been replicas in the past. It would be. I doubt. There's no way these would be fueled. Obviously, it would be way too dangerous and not make any sense. But I'm unsure if these are all. The bodies are replicas or if they're real.
Chad, can you tell how many? Because they are mixing in the edits. I couldn't.
Yeah, I
really
saw a
see how
shot
many.
earlier. I saw a shot earlier that looked like there were 4. Because in Rodong Shinmun earlier, we could only count 3 at once, but there was a straight-on shot at the start which showed 4, which matched what we saw back in 2020. You can see there are 11 axles here on the transporter or Erector launcher. This is a huge missile, and evidence that North Korea has been able to develop its own indigenous TEL production capability.
And that's important, isn't it? Because we often think it's one thing to build a missile and to launch it, but actually it's just as important to have a transporter erector launcher that can put that missile up.
Yeah, and to be honest, that was one of the things that we were looking for today that we've not seen. Like I said, what we've just seen, the end of this parade, the Hwasong 17, the Hwasong 15, nothing new. We saw all of this 2 years ago. We could have seen, if the North Koreans wanted to show something new, we would have expected at the very least maybe double the number of launches going through. That Hwasong 17, they could have had rows of 2. They could have had 4 or 8 rows of 2. That would have really worried people to see so many of those things going through Pyongyang. But we're just seeing the same number as in 2020. And yeah.
Chuni is saying that she is explaining that this was the one that they showed off 2 years ago. And unlike how they describe the Bukguksong, they are just saying this is a huge strategic weapon. That's it.
Yeah.
So even rhetorically, it's not that impressive how they describe Hwasong 17.
If this is, it looks like we're nearing it looks like we've just seen the end of the parade. We did not see anywhere the radiation symbol either on a backpack or on anything else, did we?
Nope. And we didn't really see any proper demonstration of the unmanned aerial vehicles, the drones that are expected to have a 500-kilometer range. We didn't see any evidence of the intelligence satellites that Kim Jong-un ordered to be developed in January 2021. The North Koreans are pursuing 12 new weapons technologies. There's a lot that's still not on display here. And I mean, this is maybe where Chris can chime in, but for me, this is a real head scratch of a parade because it doesn't really add anything new. Like, we've seen all of this, the vast majority of all of this before, just less than 2 years ago. And this is now the 4th military parade since then. So why make all this effort every 6 months? Chris, over to you.
That's a tricky question, but I completely agree with you. I mean, this feels like treading water. They're just reiterating the gains that they made in the past. The question is, what can you take away from that? I mean, if they're not making any significant gains over the course of 2 years, gains that they're willing to put out there in the military parade, of course, then does that tell you about their potential resource scarcity? I don't know. That's a lot to infer from one military parade, but it certainly looks like they are treading water in terms of most of their major programs, and the failure of that giant missile on March 16th tends to suggest that they're falling well short in some areas too.
Did we not think that it was likely that there would be a launch of a reconnaissance satellite around this time?
Yeah, I mean, Kim Jong-un said just back in April he wants to launch many reconnaissance satellites, and then he ordered the Sohae satellite launch facility to be remodeled and expanded. And we're also hearing rumors of potential nuclear tests on the horizon. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Joe.
Just one. Well, I mean, one thing we should say that the hypersonic missile that wasn't there in 2020, and that is one relatively big evolution. But we'd seen a hint of that already. It's not like a fresh capability that's come out of nowhere. It's something that's been tested. It was revealed at a weapons expo about 12 or 18 months ago. So we knew that was coming. We knew there were mock-ups. But there's a lot that we know is meant to be coming that hasn't been displayed or revealed. And that's where I'm just a bit puzzled by this, what the point of it is.
When you were mentioning some of the signals towards the reconnaissance satellite launch, of course, they've done 2 missile tests that have been framed as tests of reconnaissance satellite equipment as well. So the signaling around the reconnaissance satellite launch, or the rocket launch, or the ICBM launch, if you take the US Ministry of Defense view of the matter, that signaling is so strong that it's hard to believe that won't happen sometime in the coming year. Even though it hasn't been today that we've seen any kind of advance in that area.
Jeongmin, what are your thoughts on the parade as a whole? We've now sat through 2 hours and 10 minutes of this. You've done some fabulous on-the-fly interpreting for us. What do you think of it as a whole, as a production?
Well, first of all, the video editing was very interesting. How they mixed in the pre-edited videos with music in the background with the parade footage. Also, it's the rhetoric of narrator Ri-chun, he wasn't that impressive, but it's still interesting, like I said, how she described Pukgung-song as world's strongest weapon. Also, timing-wise, we should mention that the US-ROK joint combined exercises are still ongoing. So it's an interesting timing for them to hold this. And Yoon Suk-yeol, the president-elect of South Korea, his team, it seems that they were also closely monitoring North Korea's military parade and further strengthen their views on how they want to reinstate the 3-pillar system, including the kill chain preemptive strikes, after Kim Jong-un, in his speech, talked about the secondary mission of the nuclear forces. So although, all in all, because I'm an inter-Korean beat, most interesting to me is nuclear doctrine that Kim Jong-un decided to use this occasion to talk about. And it seems that for the next 5 years, it seems it's going to be just back and forth between the two, trying to show off more power, trying to deter each other, looking at how they were responding very ferociously against South Korea's discussion of preemptive strikes. So all in all, this parade itself is not that impressive, not that new. I think it was a way for them to show off that they are still continuing their work on the wish list during the 8th Party Congress. But all in all, yes, nothing major new revelation in the parade itself.
Thank you. We see Kim Jong-un slowly making his exit now from the reviewing stand built for him back in 2020. We may see him get back into his car that Chad identified for us before to be driven back to the central headquarters of the party.
It was not the stretch, by the way. I saw.
A view from behind the 2 statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il at Mansudae. The music.
I'm curious from you, Chris. You've worked with quite a few defectors. How do you think they would see a 4th parade in such short succession? If they were still living in North Korea?
If they were still living in North Korea, I don't know. But in terms of how they view it now, I think we've had discussions amongst ourselves about whether this indicates them having, let's just say, a lack of options, right? I don't want to point directly to resource limitations potentially, but feeling they have a lack of options in this pandemic period to do anything to achieve their goals. in the inter-Korean and broader spheres. And so they're going back time and time again to military parades to try and maintain the sense of their own power, but also the sense of threat in the international community, mingling them in with these missile tests over the last few months to try and drive home the message that North Korea is a threat again, a kind of a position it lost in 2018 and 2019, thanks to the diplomacy that was ongoing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We clearly, the parade is now finished. We're seeing a song, a military song, being sung at the end with some highlights. Whether it's this parade or a previous one, I'm not sure. But I think this is oh, go on, Jeongmin.
It seems like previous one. Ri Chun-hee did just say that it's over. The military parade is over. The footage is over. Yeah.
And so that's a good point for us to end our live stream and commentary here on the YouTube. I'd like to thank once again Jeongmin Kim, Chad O'Carroll, and Christopher Green, and also with off-screen and off-air intel and insights from Joost Olimans at Oryx Spionkop. Thanks everyone for participating in this today, and for those of us listening and who have actually stuck with us all the way to the end. It's been a test of endurance. You've done well. Do check us out on nknews.org. We have a weekly podcast, the NK News Podcast, which I'm the host of, which you can hear the interview that just dropped this afternoon with me and International Crisis Group career expert Christopher Green. So if you'd like to hear more of the two of us talking, you can go and check out that episode of the podcast. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you at the next parade.